I love everything about the new Invincible episode, and it's probably not uncommon to say this might be one of the best episodes in the show. Definitely top 3 for me at least. But there's one thing that really stood out to me above everything else, and that's Thragg. And not just his physicality, but his lore. I think Thragg's lore is super interesting, more so than the comics, in fact. I've read all the comics, and Thragg is very intimidating, don't get me wrong there. But there, he's portrayed more as a stoic leader rather than a tragic leader. And I think show Thragg is a lot more interesting than comic Thragg actually is. And I think that he's the most tragic character in the show. Let me explain. So, the beginning of the episode, we see the backstory of how Emperor Argal was killed and how Thragg came to become the Grand Regent. There's one part that I really want to highlight here. When Thragg and Argal are going for their little walk, and Argal says to him, if you think Thaddeus is a cancer, then eliminate him. And Thragg shows him mercy there. He's like, nah, I'm probably just mistaken. He's probably chill. But that very same night, you see that Argal is killed. And that one act of mercy has been the reason for every single action in the show, every single consequence. The state of the world, the state of the universe is because of Thaddeus. And that act of mercy by Thragg inadvertently caused all of those actions. The death of Argal is the biggest thing that Thragg blames himself for. And had he just killed Thaddeus then and there, none of this would have happened. And everything he does is him trying to atone for that mistake he made earlier. He does not want to fail again. And that's why he carries that skull around with him, to be a constant reminder of the one mistake he made by showing mercy and the consequences that had. That single event is the reason why Viltrumite culture is the way it is. Why they had to do the purge. They had to get rid of the weak because showing mercy is the reason that got their emperor killed. So, logically speaking, don't show mercy, and hence the purge had to happen. The weak had to be called from their ranks. But this isn't a thing that strengthens the Viltrumites. Thragg is deeply saddened by having to do this. You can see the moment where he sits down in his throne and just thinks about what's happening, just reflects on the tragedy that's had to happen, the weight that he's carrying with him, the emotional baggage of showing mercy once, and all the consequences that's happened. His newfound responsibility to find Argal's heir and to carry them forward. That is the emotional toll that he carries with him always moving forward. And that's what makes this skull such a powerful tool and such a powerful plot device, and why he cares about it so much. It's carrying the weight of all his responsibility. And so he needs to have it with him at all times to remind him of that, to remind him of his true purpose and what his mission is, what he set out to do, what his mistakes are, and how he can atone for those. He is a zealot for the Viltrum Empire. And it's a classic case of the soldier that lives beyond his king continues to serve his king until his end. And even in the present day, that's all he knows. He is the soldier who wants to act out Argal's mission. And that's why he carries that skull with him. And that's why everything from episode 6, I will say, myself included, I will admit, I called him a fraud. I'm sorry. I apologize. But what I'm saying is everything from episode 6 makes perfect sense for his character, given this new context that we know from the beginning of this episode. He is devoted, utterly and completely devoted to Argal, to the Viltrumite Empire. And that skull is the last reminder of him, that he failed by showing mercy, and this is what he needs to protect. It's a reminder of his mission, and something that he can talk to, right? Because it's his last connection to Emperor Argal.
You can't have coffee. No.
And so he can repay his sins, quote unquote. He can make justice for Thaddeus for betraying and for him for being blindsided and letting Thaddeus kill Argal, which I think is fascinating. And that's why it's so interesting that he's a sympathetic villain as well. Again, his primary goal is repopulating Viltrumite's numbers, saving his species from the brink of extinction. And he knows he needs to do that in any way possible, which is why these other extra scenes and the rest of this episode also plays out so well. Before I get to that, actually, last week's episode, one of the complaints I had with it was that all the Viltrumites just escaped. Thragg didn't join the battle. I do still think that criticism stands, because the way he's fought in this episode, he could have joined the battle and literally probably ended the war right there and then and there, which I still will hold against the episode. So Even though this episode does everything right, I think is like a 9.5, almost 10 out of 10 episode. I do still think that that's a problem from the last episode and a problem with Thragg's decisions. So that's still there. But besides that, everything from this episode, everything he does is phenomenal. He stands there. When he first talks to Nolan, the first punch, he sends him down to Viltrum and comes down to talk to him. That is also something that wasn't in the comics, and they've added just for the show, mind you. And also, again, an outstanding scene to further develop his and Nolan's characters, because they're both in such interesting dilemmas and interesting situations. Nolan is here who defected from the Viltrum Empire and wants to put an end to their ways of conquering. But he sees the potential in the Viltrumites. He just believes they need a new leader who will guide them. He doesn't believe they're a lost cause because he sees himself. He knows that he changed, and so that others will be able to change as well. He sees that. Thragg, on the other hand, is still stuck to the old ways. He still believes the might is right philosophy of Argol, which is why he will never fundamentally change. As long as he's alive, that is the philosophy that the Viltrumites will follow. And why would he change? It makes complete sense, right? Because the last time he showed any mercy, anything other than pure strength, it ended in his emperor's death. And so now, no matter what he does, he's doubled down on this might is right approach. And basically, he's overcompensating his mistakes of the past, unwilling to make any changes. And that is a flaw in his character, but it's an intentional flaw, and it makes complete sense for his character. But he is still sympathetic. He understands Nolan's position. He says, "You've suffered the same hardships we have. We're in this together. Don't make me fight you. You can come back and join your actual family, your blood." But Nolan still refuses. And I find this scene really interesting because, again, it shows more about like Thragg's ultimate mission here isn't just to throw hands. His end goal is to save the Viltrumite race. So them fighting is a net loss to him, regardless if they win or not, because of the casualties that will happen along the way. Any lost Viltrumites from either side is a net loss to their race. So he wants to try and prevent that as much as possible. But he's not going to surrender because of their own pride. Because of this might is right philosophy. He believes they're better than everyone else in the universe, and they deserve that. Again, Nolan and Thragg both believe in the survival of the Viltrumites. But Nolan wants to change their philosophy, and Thragg is not willing to do so. That's what makes it so brilliant, because you see why he's like that, and you can understand. In that situation, both those characters, you can completely understand where they're coming from, why they're butting heads here, and why they can't come to an agreement. There's no way they could have come to an agreement. They believe something differently on a philosophical level, so that would never happen. It just would never work. And so that's why all of that, plus him being the strongest character in the universe, makes him so interesting. And again, the decision at the end to spare Mark, him seeing the planet Viltrum, his home, being blown up, he's in full rage. It would make complete sense for him to kill Mark there. And I wouldn't blame him. Who could, right? You just watch your home of thousands of years get destroyed by these two defectors. You'd be mad as well. But he exercises a lot of control here, seeing that Mark is still a Viltrumite. And he actually respects Mark to a certain extent. Because when Mark tells him that he killed Conquest, that's the point where he knows that, okay, Earth Viltrumites are compatible and they're strong. He considers them basically full-blooded and equivalent to regular Viltrumites, pure-blooded Viltrumites. Notice how he talks to Oliver and Mark differently. He talks to Oliver saying, "You're not one of us. You don't belong here." And then he tells Mark that he was never your brother. He considers Mark a Viltrumite, but he doesn't consider Oliver a Viltrumite. Even though he is by blood, by character, and by strength, he does not consider him one. And so that's why when he has Mark by the eyes, by the throat, right, instantly able to kill him, he sees the planet blew up. They don't have a home anymore. They still need to repopulate. Killing him here doesn't really do any good. They still need Viltrumites. And so he sees that and understands they can go to Earth and continue breeding there. And all of this, man, it's so fascinating. I think Thragg here, in just this one episode, one or two episodes, but in just this short span of the season, I think has become my favorite among the Viltrumites, even more than Conquest. Everyone says Conquest got, a lot of people say Conquest became their favorite in just the one episode. I think in this one episode, Thragg tops Conquest solely because of the extra backstory we had. It's kind of close. I don't know. I think Thragg I think Thragg tops because not only is he the strongest being in the universe, so his fight scenes are fucking insane. Like no one can stand up to him. There is nothing. No one's even in the same realm as him. And second of all, he's not stupid. Minus the one thing from last episode, which we'll ignore for now. But like besides that, he's not stupid, and he's a smart leader. He does what he needs to do. He can adapt. Even though he's stuck in the same philosophy, he's willing to do whatever it takes to ensure the survival of the Viltrumites, which I think is super fascinating. And I can't wait for the next episode. I've read the comics, so I know it's pretty much gonna happen. If you read the comics, you know what's gonna happen, and it's gonna be pretty sick. And if you haven't seen the comics, you haven't read the comics, you're in for a treat for next episode. Let me know what you think about Thragg. Is he your favorite Viltrumite now? I think he's my favorite Viltrumite now. I think he's the most interesting. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. If you watched to the end, I appreciate it. Like and subscribe. But catch you in the next one. Take care.